It was just so beyond what anyone thought was going to happen.
And finally, we've got a new party, a new player that looks like they've finally smashed the two-party system.
You can't run first past the post in a 5-party state.
The next person who tells me there's no point voting, I'm going to go 6 votes is what it took for Reform to win an MP. 6 votes. Hi everybody, and welcome back to Nick Talks. This episode's amazing returning guest is the Silver Fox from Silver Fox Hot Takes. How you doing, Foxy?
Hi, yeah, super. Been a fantastic last few days, hasn't it? There's been a lot of stuff going on.
It's been mental. I knew Reform UK were going to do really well. I was surprised. I would have been happy if they would have won one council, got control of the one council. But I just can't believe how well they did and how poorly Labour and the Tories did. So let's put this into perspective. As everybody knows, got some international viewers as well. I'm international now. Last Thursday, we had local elections in England, which was limited. There was only certain areas that had the elections. There was also some mayoral elections as well. And there was one member of parliament by-election as well. In a nutshell, what happened, David?
Well, we did a video, was it last Wednesday, didn't we? And we're sort of anticipating what were happening. And again, yeah, we both said if we could get one council, I said, I expect them to get one, maybe two. I said, and then what happened? They got 10 councils or something. I'm blown out of the water. And I was saying as well, I mean, we both agreed. It wasn't like me being like, the greatest predictor of anything. I was saying, I see about 500 seats going from the Tories to Reform. And what was it in the end? 600 and something, 677, I think, off the top of my head. I mean, that was just whoosh. It went way beyond expectations. It was just so beyond what anyone thought was going to happen. And it was marvellous to behold. The embarrassment, of course, on both Labour and the Tories. I mean, humiliation. That's all it was. Not even beyond embarrassment. It's humiliation for those two, wasn't it?
It was. And even if you're not a Reform supporter, you might be thinking Reform are just as bad as the other two parties, or they're wolves in sheep clothing, or they're Nazis. It doesn't matter, because you can't be happy with the status quo. And finally, we've got a new party, a new player that looks like they've finally smashed the two-party system. That can only be good for everybody, regardless who you vote for, regardless how you want the country to be governed. It must be good for democracy.
Like I say, what we've seen is a fundamental shift, I think, in British politics. Because again, this is just as an aside, what a lot of our people in the press aren't really reporting as well is not only did Labour and Tory fail and Reform win, but the Greens and the Lib Dems were also big winners here. We've moved from what 10 years ago we had a 2.5-party state to now what is really a 5-party state. I think the calls for a change in our voting system absolutely now have to occur. You can't run first past the post in a 5-party state. So, I mean, I think that'll be the biggest upshot of everything that's going to happen. It'll be a complete, revision on how we elect Parliament. But, you're right in saying about stirring things up in terms of a political level, because now nobody can take their seat for granted. And especially with the Runcorn election, the 16th safest seat by the thinnest margin possible. There's nobody in the Labour Party now looking at their seat and thinking, oh my God, I'm safe. No one. Because there'll be people there with even perhaps bigger majorities still going to feel very, very vulnerable. So, yeah, it's a fantastic thing to see. And, of course, it concentrates their minds wonderfully. All these things, what can we do to change it? What can we do? trouble is they can go nowhere. They're ideologically fixed, aren't they?
I think it's even worse for Labour and Tories than we can possibly imagine for this reason. People like to vote for winners. At this election last week, Reform was still seen as a protest vote. Many people didn't take him seriously. So at the next election, so looking at May next year, when they're also fighting in Scotland and Wales, people will be looking at Reform now going, you're the opposition. You're the people who are going to destroy this Labour government. You're the people who are going to carry on punishing the Tories. They're not a protest vote anymore now. Anyone who thinks of a protest vote is living in dream world. You could get away with that 2 weeks ago. They've just shown the country that they are now really the opposition to the Uni Party. And I think they're going to attract more Labour voters. They're going to attract more Tory voters. Some of those voters will obviously, like you said, go to Lib Dems and go to Greens because Reform are not for them. Absolutely fine. You should vote for the party that represents you the best. I get that and I support that. But so many more voters now are going to take a chance on Reform because they're not losers. They're not protest votes anymore now. They're the winners of the election.
Yeah, and there's also, by having more parties, it's what I call granular politics, because it's not just a 50-50 choice with the Lib Dems as a protest. It's much more granular. You can choose, and there's a lot of people who wouldn't vote Tory. They're right wing, but they didn't want to vote Tory. But now they've got another right wing party to vote for, and so you're going to get votes from a lot of people who didn't vote or haven't voted for years voting now. And where do people on the left go if they don't like Labour? Well, they're going to vote Lib Dem, another left-leaning party. And so you've got these two great big monolithic parties now have genuine, realistic alternatives that really haven't been there for, well, in the terms of the right, never. In terms of the left, for years with the Lib Dems. And I think that's the big thing. It's not just so many more people are voting for Reform, it's that they're no longer voting for Labour or for the Tories. They've got alternatives. And that will weaken the big pies. But of course, sorry, just to finish that up, but of course, the Reform are benefiting the absolute most over it.
Yeah. Of course they are. There was many Labour politicians on the airways this weekend, like they do, send out, try to turn this loss into a semi-loss, do your best. And virtually all of them said that the winter fuel allowance was mentioned on the doorsteps by Labour voters. And that was a number one complaint when they're knocking on doors. And then today, or yes, last night, West Streeting floated an idea, a bit ambiguous, about maybe we should reverse the winter fuel allowance. And Starmer's spokespeople have been out today going, absolutely not. Official policy, no, we're not doing a U-turn on this. Wouldn't that have been a little bit of red meat to the Labour voters going, we're listening, you've given us a beating, we're listening, we're going to reverse that, which isn't a lot of money. 1.5 billion a year. Sounds a lot to me and you, but in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing. When we're spending 6-7 billion on illegal immigrants every year, they could have thrown a little bit of red meat to their Labour supporters, but they've doubled down and said, no, we're not. Can you foresee this Labour government changing anything, trying to do anything to win the next election, or are they on a path now and that's it?
Well, the problem they've got is if they reverse the policy, it's a tacit admittance that they got it wrong. And of course, these people are so up themselves, they can never allow anyone to think that they've got anything wrong, ever. And so, no, a reversal was never on the cards. However, I've heard rumour that they're looking at upping the level at which this comes in. So anyway, if you earn less than this, then you'll still get the winter fuel allowance if you fill in the 57-page document kind of thing. So what they're looking at is, we're not going to change the policy, but we are going to up the lower limit. So try and bring more people in, and that way they can say, "Oh no, look, people are still getting it. People are still getting it." We were just trying to stop it for those who are earning the most, kind of thing. And just say, "Oh well, there was a mix up in numbers. We were looking," and they'll try and spin some rubbish, and make it look as though it wasn't their fault, but it clearly was, and they meant every minute of it. Um, you can't you can't spin your way out of this. But they're going to try to, but they will never admit they got anything wrong. And I think going forward to the next election, that's going to be their downfall. Pride.
Yeah, quite possibly. There's no point messing with the level of winter fuel allowance of when it kicks in, because it's such a nuanced thing that most people won't understand it, and most people will go, "You cancelled the winter fuel allowance. It's black and white. You cancelled it." Someone told me once, never give a bad refund. So when I used to work on the markets and self-employed, the idea was either give someone a refund with a big smile, or don't give them a refund. Don't give someone a bad refund, which is you give them the money back, but you make them walk away still hating you, because you might as well just kept the money, because they're going to hate you anyway, never shop with you anyway. And that's what Labour will do if they tinker with the winter fuel allowance. It's a bad refund. Nobody will appreciate it. They've lost a bit of face. They're going to lose some money, but nobody will remember them trying to do. It's either change U-turn or don't U-turn. Tinkering doesn't do anything about that at all. Right, let's talk about reform. Reform must be shocked. We've got 10 councils. We've got the Midlands mayor, and we've won another MP. We're back up to 5. I mean, they won the MP on 6 votes. The next person who tells me there's no point voting, I'm going to go, 6 votes is what it took for reform to win an MP. 6 votes. So they've got a lot of thinking to do, but already started coming out with some good stuff that I like. In their 10 councils, they're banning the flying of foreign flags on all public buildings. Excellent. They're going to use the council powers to try, because they're not in government, they only can try in their 10 local areas to not house and not give licenses for housing illegal immigrants, asylum seekers. They're going to make it as tough as possible. And they have some power behind that, such, licensing powers, the planning powers. They can't just say no, because they're not the government, but they can do stuff, and they're coming out with this already, and it sounds fantastic.
Yeah, what they're looking at is that a lot of the hotels never applied for change of use from hotel to hostel. So they're going to say, well, no, it's illegal now. You're going to have to get everyone out, because it's an illegal thing. You haven't applied for the right to change of use. So no, you must throw these people out. It's not a hostel. It must be closed down, and they've got the right to do that. And when it comes to planning as well, and also where they're taking over homes, and putting lots of people in, it becomes a home of multiple occupancy, and that needs licensing. So they're just going to refuse licenses and things like that. So they do have some powers. It won't matter much on the grand scheme of things, but it shows a willingness, and it shows a direction of travel, and it shows people who are in other areas who didn't vote, for reform in their area. Oh, hang on a minute. Look what they're getting. Look what, they're getting rid of those over there. And next time there's a vote, they go, we'll do the same. And so it's good PR more than anything else. Achieving stuff, it's not going to achieve much, but the PR from it is priceless.
I think there's a lot more PR than you just said. There's PR also in, neighbouring area or somewhere else in the country. That new immigrant hotel that's just opened up, that's opened up in your area because we closed our down in our area. So now, not only do we have a better quality of life, we're forcing these immigrants into your areas because you vote Tory, Lib Dem, and Labour. If you vote for Reform UK, you can push yours onto other people as well. And there's that selfishness in all of us. Well, all selfish beings to a certain extent. I think that's the message Reform will start hammering to people. You're getting these hotels because we don't want them.
Yeah, you're getting what you deserve because you voted for it. I mean, if you're voting for a party that welcomes immigration, like the Labour Party or the Tories, well, that's what you're going to get. And then they're all complaining, oh, but look, we've got nowhere to rent or nowhere to buy. Well, high immigration. But, you've had Tony Blair, then you had Gordon Brown, then you had many, many years of a Conservative government. Now we're back in a Labour government again. Not one of them have stopped it because they just don't want to.
It's got worse every single year.
And it's going to continue to get worse. It's so easy to stop, and yet they won't. So they're all tacitly for immigration. That's all you can conclude. And so if all of a sudden it's the immigrants are being placed in hostels and homes and things in Tory and Labour areas, but not in reform areas, people will get the message and they'll get it very, very strongly. Yeah.
We learn very quickly when it's in our benefit or it's at our detriment. We learn very quickly. So the downside for reform is this. They're now in charge of 10 councils. They're going to have to perform. They're going to have to not make mistakes because both Labour, all the other political parties now will be going through them with a fine-tooth comb because it's easy being in opposition when you run nothing because you can just point out other people's mistakes and everyone makes mistakes. We're all human. But now they've run 10 councils, and I'm glad they are, but they're going to be under scrutiny now, more scrutiny than any other party. I just hope they can cope with that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, but you've got all these new people. They're going to make mistakes. Of course they are. Things are going to happen that's going to be a bit odd. People are going, oh, look at the way you're doing that. You're going to get that. But they have said that they're going through with a very fine-tooth comb and they're looking at all spending and they're going to be ruthless with cutting things like vanity projects and whatever. They're going to concentrate on core issues. And of course, one of the big things is if they're not housing migrants, then that leaves a lot of money for other services. So, let's get the potholes done. Now, I would give them one piece of advice is not to try and sit there and go, right, we'll do that and that and that and that and that and that. Pick one or two things, concentrate on them, and then have it sorted and then say, this is what we've done, not what we've promised to do and failed to deliver. This is what we promised to do and delivered. And if it means all the potholes filled, excellent. If it means all the schools, maintenance brought up to date, excellent. Whatever it is, pick one or two things and concentrate on them and get them done and cut the waste.
No, that's a great point because how many politicians have we heard over our lifetime telling us what they're going to do and what they're in the process of doing, and it never completes, and we never get told at the end when it's done because it was never really done.
Because they don't have the budget to be able to do everything, and they don't have the manpower to do everything, but they promise everything. But if you concentrate on one task, get it done, concentrate your resources, concentrate your manpower, get the job done, move on to the next job. At least at the end of your 4 years, you go, look what we've done. Look what we've completed. Look what we've done for you, and actually have something tangible that you can see. And that's a win.
Yeah, absolutely. Point to something and say, look, that's better, that's done, that's complete, we fixed that. Show them. Just show them what you've done.
Even if it's just one thing.
Yeah. It's action that led to this, and now it's done because politicians never do that. They just promise and promise and promise. Now, at the beginning of this, you said that you thought Lib Dem were one of the winners out the election last week. I sort of disagree. I think Lib Dems will be very disappointed with their performance. They went up in figures. They won 2 councils. They got a few more councillors. I thought the Greens did well.
Sorry, Nick, was it about 136 councillors extra for Lib Dem, something like that? I mean, that's a win. I mean, it might not be as big a win as they wanted, but it's still a win.
Oh no, I think it's a win as in their numbers went up. But if I was a Lib Dem HQ on a normal election cycle, with the government being so unpopular and Tories still being hated, I would have been expecting, 10 councils, 500, 600. They've lost out because of Reform UK, because they're the natural protest vote at that election. And I think the Lib Dems internally must start discussing who their leader is, because he comes across as a clown. He'll take some credit for the 127 seats they won, but you know what? He didn't win them. They were votes against the Lib Dem, the votes against Tories and probably Labour a little bit. That's what those votes were. They could have done better if we knew what Lib Dem stand for, because we have no idea. We just know they're not liberal and they're not democratic. That's all we know about them. And I think, like Labour and the Tories, I think they need to start looking at who our leader is, because all those three main parties all need new leaders.
Yeah, you're right, Nick. They are led by, the chief clown. They are an absolute three-ring circus. And whenever you look at him, he's always trying to raise his profile, but not by doing anything sensible. He's going down rides on rubber rings or shoving a hobby horse up his backside and running around a little gymkhana. To be fair, I think he's having the time of his life. He's loving it. Look at me. I'm going canoeing. I'm going to ride a roller coaster. It's like, yeah, absolutely. If you know that you are the head of a party that's never, ever going to be in government, why not have fun? So from his personal point of view, he's having the whale of a time, isn't he? But in terms of representing people, his serious job is to be a representative of the people. I think the people deserve a little bit better than just a middle-aged man going through a second childhood.
I get the impression he's trying to copy Boris Johnson, because Boris Johnson did those stupid things and came across as a bit of a clown. But for some reason, Boris Johnson seemed to get away with it because of his character, because of everything else. He still looked a bit of a clown, but it was still the clown you liked, where he just comes across as a clown and there's nothing extra there. I think he's trying to copy Boris Johnson.
Yeah, pound shop Boris Johnson, isn't he? Whereas Boris Johnson had an air of buffoonery about him. You kind of liked him. Whereas I think with Davey, it's he's trying too hard. He's desperate. He so wants to be loved, doesn't he? He's got a need, I think, an inner need to be loved. But everyone just looks at him and just goes, "Nah, you're a bit of a tit, really."
So let's end this with, what was the biggest shock for you at the election last week?
That Labour did as well as they did, I think. Now they didn't have a lot to lose. They did manage to lose over half, but I thought they'd lose more. I honestly did. I thought they'd lose maybe another 10-15% more than they did. So I think for some reason there's enough people out there mentally challenged, shall we say, that they still think that voting Labour is a pretty good idea. That was the big surprise, was how much better Labour did than I was expecting.
Can Starmer stay?
Starmer staying, I don't think that was ever in doubt. He won't leave. He will have to be prized out of number 10. But you wonder how long that'll take now. I think from the rumours we're talking about, he's going to be gone soon. And of course, Powell's statement as well about blowing little trumpets and dog whistles. I think Lucy Powell has weakened Labour. And of course, even today, and I've did a video on it earlier. So, hey, good people out there, go watch it. I was talking about he's backing her. Really? Does a man not know how the country feels about Lucy Powell? He's standing, I'm backing her to the hilt. I'm like, the man has no political nous.
Yeah, unless she's one of his supporters and he knows she's one of his supporters. and he knows he's going to need them all very soon to support him.
Yeah, what's it? Circling the wagons, maybe, because there's a lot. I think there's going to be a lot of people will be riding to attack him. I was going to say that the rumor the rumor is the next leader is likely, possibly, God, I hope not, Ed Miliband.
I've heard that rumor. That surprises me. If that happened, that is the biggest surprise I could ever imagine. I could actually foresee Angela Rayner becoming prime minister. She's already deputy prime minister. Unions love her. She's already got a power base. I could see Wes Streeting becoming leader because you know he you can see he's a future leader. Can he jump the queue? I can see Andy Burnham coming in and being it, but not Ed. I cannot see Ed Miliband is just as bad as saying David Lammy.
Yeah, yeah, but the rumors are there, aren't they? It's like, well, the other big rumor. Well, we got them, and hey, everybody, listen to this one. What do we think about Bojo coming back for the Tories? Obviously, not Labour.
No, I think Bojo's name's always been floated because his name is synonymous with that 2019 big win. But since then, people don't realise we all hate people on the right now. We all hate Boris Johnson because he took the level of destruction of this country to the next level. It was him. It was his cowardice. It was him embracing the green agenda, opening the door to even more mass immigration, wasting his 80-seat majority, not giving us a half-hearted shit Brexit. Some people may like him as a person, but honestly, I don't think he's electable anymore.
Right, I've got one last question for you then. Obviously, with that Dan Norris fella down in Somerset, looking to be spending some time at His Majesty's pleasure for the terrible things he's done, there may well be very shortly a by-election there. You think Jacob's going to come back?
I'm not sure the Tory party wants him because for them he's far too right on the right wing, and he speaks.
I do like him though.
I mean, I like him. He's one of those politicians who's completely honest all the time, even if you don't want honesty. He just tells you. I like him. I mean, if the Tories want to be saved, then you need to start getting people like him back in the party. Again, you might want to get Boris back in the party because he'll bring some votes with him and his humour to the, but he can't be leader. But back in the party, I can see people wanting that. The Tories still don't know who they are and what they want.
Yeah, I think they're lost in the wilderness at the moment, aren't they?
They are. They don't know. They're holding on to the 100+ seats they've got, thinking we're doing okay. No, you're not doing okay.
No, they're not.
You need to work out who you are, then get rid of the MPs who don't agree with you, and that might drop you down to 80, 90 MPs. The rest can go independent. It doesn't matter. You haven't got any power in House of Commons anyway because your numbers are so low. But then you've got a base to build. At least then people who are joining know what they're joining the party for. At the moment, there's still too broad a church. There's still too many Lib Dems in there, too many socialists in there. It's still a mess.
So you're saying that the Tory party need a harrowing and separate the wheat from the chaff, get rid of the wheat and elect the chaff.
Well, yeah, and the first thing they need is a leader with a vision. So everybody knows what the Tory party stands for, because at the moment, the Tory party still stands for the last 14 years in government. Nobody wants that Tory party. Nobody wants that Tory party slightly improved or slightly better or slightly right wing. No one wants that Tory party. It has to be a new Tory party with a new vision, a new focus, a new promised land. That's what they have to give us.
Well, yeah, I don't think they're capable at the moment. I don't think they've got the right people.
They haven't. They're going to be in the wilderness for many years before they figure it out. And to be fair, every party that takes a hammering like that is in the wilderness for many years, because it takes many years for those parties to understand their mistakes and get new people in. So it's a process. It's going to take at least another election cycle. It's going to take at least an election cycle. And it's even harder for them now because they've got competition with Reform UK. Foxy, thanks so much for coming along. You said you'd come back on a few days after the election and give your give your verdict. You've always got your finger on the pulse as well as one foot in a jail cell. So you always, I always give you credit for that. Cheers for coming along, and let's do this again soon.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me, and thanks for everyone for watching.
See you later.
Bye.